Donald Trump really only cares about two things in this world. The first, of course, being himself. He is a textbook narcissist. So all Donald Trump ever does is things to serve himself. But the second thing he cares about most in this world is his crowd size, his ratings, his rallies. It's all he can ever talk about is who got good ratings because of him, or he always lies about the size of his crowd, saying that he had 90,000 people show up for him in New Jersey when it was really more like 9. That is Donald Trump's main focus. It is on crowd size, it is on ratings, it is who is showing up to his rallies. And that's why, especially lately, not only the fact that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are having bigger rallies than him, yeah, that really boils his blood. But what upsets him the most is they will have a rally in the same arena, and it will be packed for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and it will be half empty for Donald Trump. And he just can't handle that because it is so embarrassing to him. It makes him so insecure, which he already is, and because of that, he loses his mind. And we've seen that so many times, and that's why today Donald Trump especially unraveled, and one of the strangest speeches I've seen in a long time from Donald Trump, which I find myself saying that more and more, but I think it's because of a combination of factors today, the first of which was Tim Walz holding a massive rally in Nebraska of all places, getting a huge crowd. And so that started to pour a little salt in the wound of Donald Trump, his anger over these rallies. But before we get into all of that, before we check out the incredibly empty crowd at Donald Trump's rally, let's look at the line outside the door for Tim Walz in Nebraska. Clearly huge excitement for the soon-to-be VP in Nebraska of all places. So incredible. Now, of course, Donald Trump has lashed out at Kamala Harris and Tim Walz for these huge rallies that they're holding and pushing all these lies about AI being the reason that they have so many people show up at the rallies trying to pretend that the crowds are fake. It's funny, Donald Trump lies about the size of his crowds, and so then he projects that onto Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, saying that they're lying about the size of their crowd. Every time Republicans make an accusation, it's really an admission of who they are, and that can be seen in this post from Donald Trump. Trump falsely claimed on Truth Social, "Has anyone noticed that Kamala cheated at the airport? There was nobody at the plane and she AI'd it and showed a massive crowd of so-called followers, but they didn't exist." Now, at his massive rally in Nebraska today, Tim Walz took a shot at Donald Trump for this remark, and it was just so funny.
Then at that time, the largest rally of the campaign showed up in Detroit, Michigan. Donald Trump said it was AI. You know what won't be AI? Their ballots come November will not be AI.
Not only is Donald Trump being crushed by Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in the polls, in crowd size, in fundraising, and any metric that you could possibly look at, they're mocking him for it too. And I love that. I love the mocking of Donald Trump. I love pushing his buttons because, as we've always seen, when they do that, when Tim Walz does it, when Kamala Harris does it, when, a George Conway or the Lincoln Project, they push Donald Trump's buttons, he really starts to unravel in a public way. And he always does it in front of the cameras or typing away with his little fingers on Truth Social. And it just shows everyone who may have forgotten how much they dislike Donald Trump. It puts voters off. So I encourage everyone to keep poking fun at Donald Trump because it really just makes him reveal himself in a way that continues to lose him votes. And I love that. And it shows up at his rallies now, like we've talked about. Today, his rally in Michigan, pretty much a half-empty crowd, and it led Donald Trump to completely lose his mind. But before we get to that bit of the speech, I want to take a look at how empty this crowd is, because it just makes me so happy that Donald Trump is losing everywhere, including the enthusiasm battle. As you can see, empty seats all over the place in an arena that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have been filling lately. Completely embarrassing for Trump. This is humiliating for Donald. He hates it. Nothing upsets him more than being behind, not in the polls. He doesn't even care about the polls as much as he cares about his rallies. That is what means the most to Donald Trump. Having the enthusiasm, which he no longer does. He doesn't. The enthusiasm is behind Kamala Harris. The crowds are flocking to her. And it's not just Democratic supporters, as we always talk about. It's Republicans as well. And that's why the Trump rallies are emptier and emptier, and it's driving Donald Trump crazier and crazier. And we can see that in this moment from his speech.
What happened to Biden? I was running against Biden. All of a sudden, I'm running against somebody else. It's true. It's interesting. I said, who am I running against? Harris. I said, who the hell is Harris? You don't know. Who the hell is Harris?
It's really funny to me that this is the Trump line of attack on Kamala Harris. It's saying that he doesn't know her last name, or that some people don't know her last name. I don't really know what this attack is. We've seen a lot of attacks, though, on Kamala Harris's name from all sorts of Republicans. Nancy Mace comes to mind. They want to mispronounce her name. They want to say it wrong purposely, even though they know how to pronounce it. They think that's a winning political strategy. But Donald Trump saying he doesn't know who Harris is, it just makes him look as dumb as he is. And so keep doing it, Donald. It's great. Keep melting down on stage. We love it. You're obviously a little bit rattled right now. We can tell you're upset about your small crowd, so you're lashing out in really the weirdest ways. And a great example of that came in this clip from the speech.
Complains. Hey, look. Joe Biden hates her, okay? Hates her. You don't mind if I go off teleprompter for a second, do you? Joe Biden hates her. This was an overthrow of a president. This was an overthrow. They went out. You know, I spent $100 million fighting Joe Biden.
He's trying to create a rift here that doesn't exist. President Biden immediately endorsed Kamala Harris to run in his place when he decided to pass the torch to her. It was his decision. And it's funny, again, all this is projection from Donald Trump. It's really funny to me because it's just a reminder that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have an incredible relationship that they've built over the last 4 years. But someone who doesn't have a great relationship with their vice president is Donald Trump. This is just a reminder to us all that 40 out of 44 of Donald Trump's own cabinet officials and senior advisors, they won't endorse him. Not only that, they've come out against him. As we always say, every Republican accusation is an admission of something true about them. There is no rift between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but there's certainly one between Donald Trump and Mike Pence. And why is that? Why did that happen? Oh, January 6th. Thank you for reminding us of that, Donald. You're really doing a great job in these speeches of just making yourself look bad. So keep talking. We love it. And he did that right here.
She'll be easier. She'll be easier than him. Her policies are so bad. Her policy, remember, her father was a Marxist economic professor. He was a Marxist, an avowed Marxist. This is not what we want in this country.
So if I have this correct, Donald Trump's approach to campaigning against Kamala Harris is to mispronounce her name, okay, say he doesn't know her last name, and his brutal smackdown on her policies are that they're bad. He can't give a reason why. He can't lay out an economic agenda of his own other than huge tax cuts for the richest Americans, giant corporations, affecting the cost of living for all Americans with giant tariffs that don't seem to make any sense and have been proven to fail. That's Donald Trump's economic policy, and his only blow on Kamala Harris is her policies are bad. He just sounds ridiculous, and he especially did in this clip right here.
Bush, Barack Hussein. Did you ever hear of Barack Hussein Obama? Have you heard of him? There are those that think he is currently running the country. Does anybody think? I don't know. I don't know that that's true. We know it's not Biden.
Trump is desperate. He's desperate for anything at this point. So he's going back to the hits, I guess. Talking about Barack Obama is something that maybe works for Donald Trump, he thinks, that his crowd likes it. It's clear that, again, all he is thinking about, all his mind is wrapped up in, is crowd size. He is so sad that, as we can tell in these clips, his crowd doesn't really seem to care. It's an empty crowd, so that definitely doesn't help. But they're pretty bored by Trump at this point. They know he's losing. They were so excited a couple weeks ago. Now he's tanking in the polls. The enthusiasm is gone. He's unraveling more and more. He's not even really doing speeches anymore. And so he's just trying to do anything, trying to play the hits, trying to play to the crowd. But there's just some, as we could see, some half-hearted, some claps, a couple of cheers, but not really. And it's driving Donald Trump crazy. He can't handle it. It is so upsetting to him and so encouraging to me that we see these giant crowds for Tim Walz, lines out the door. in Nebraska. But Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, which is again a swing state, a state that's certainly swinging towards Kamala Harris, but he can't even get crowds there in counties that vote for him in pretty significant numbers. It's really all coming to an end to for Donald Trump. And I think he's starting to feel it. I think he's starting to see it. And that's why he's losing his mind. And I love it. It's incredible. Keep holding half-filled rallies, Donald. Enjoy the end because it's soon on the way. And that makes me so excited. And if it makes you excited as well, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Leave a like on this video. The support really goes a long way and means the world to me. And until next time, I'll see you soon.